Hey there friends, Rebecca here, the Dragon Librarian from Farmington Community Library, and I'm here with my other brand new dragon friend. So excited to introduce him to all of you, and he is very excited to read and review a bunch of awesome books with me. And we're here today to talk to you about a book that we're super excited about. It's one that we read and we were excited about it because we thought it was this one particular genre, and while it was, and it did fall into that category, this book was a lot deeper and had a lot more things going on than we originally thought. And it was really just such a gripping experience reading this book. I really enjoyed it, and I think that a lot of people are going to get a lot of great things out of it. So what is this book that I'm talking about? Well, it is called A Guide to the Dark by Meriam Metoui. Guide to the Dark. Now, this is this author's very first book, and I was excited to read it because it is basically, labeled as a spooky book, as a horror book, and there are definitely scary, freaky elements in this book, for sure. But this book is so much more than that, which is why I wanted to talk about it now instead of holding off and waiting for, for spooky season. I wanted to talk about it now because I think that this is a book that, while technically, yes, it is a little bit scary, that's not the main focus of the book, not even close. So this book is about these two friends named Mira and Layla. They are high school seniors. They are on a spring break trip together to look at some colleges. They convince their parents to let them go on this trip. They're going to all these different schools that they applied to check them out and see if they're, if they are exactly what they want them to be. But they, in the very beginning of the story, there is an accident and they are stranded in the middle of Indiana, in the middle of nowhere in Indiana. So the only place there is to stay, there's this really small town within walking distance, and the only place to stay that's available is this a place called the Wildwood Hotel. So they go to check in, and it's run by this boy and his mom. And the boy seems kind of freaked out when they are put into room number 9, and they can't figure out what is going on with this room. Well, apparently this room has a history of death. So over the decades, multiple people have died in this exact room, in room number 9, in various ways. Accidents, suicide, murder, stuff like that. They're only in this room. So there is this heavy, dark feeling hanging over this room. And Layla doesn't feel it. She can't really feel anything that's different, just thinks it's a regular room, regular hotel. But Mira can feel it. And the reason that Mira can feel it is because she starts having nightmares when they are staying there waiting for the car to be fixed. Nightmares about her brother who passed away the previous year. So she starts having nightmares about her brother, and if that isn't bad enough, she starts seeing her brother, her dead brother, when she's awake too. So once they start talking to Ellis, who is the boy, whose mom owns the hotel, and they find out that his dad was one of the people that died in that room, and he tells them the history and how he thinks there's something really weird going on with this room, and there's something going on with it. And they decide that they are going to try to uncover the mystery of this room and try to thwart it and see what's going on. So as it stands right there, right, it just sounds like a standard scary book about this hotel that is, haunted or possessed or whatever. And yes, that is obviously very definitely the main storyline of this book. But more importantly, and what the biggest emphasis is put on, is what is going on with Mira and her grief about her brother. Because she has a lot of feelings tied up with this. Obviously, it was her brother, but lots of not just grief, but also guilt because of the way he died. They were swimming they were on vacation with their family, and they were swimming, and he died in the ocean. And she has a lot of guilt about that. Could she have done more? Could she have done something differently? And just things that she remembers about that day. And her family has been pulling away from her as they're dealing with their own grief in the situation. And Mira has been coping this past year in, ways that that help her but aren't really healthy. And basically Layla has to try to help Mira, you know, get through this grief and get through this darkness, you know, so that she can be able to forgive herself and to forgive her brother and to move on. And this book was so amazing with the way that it talks about grief and the way that it handles grief and the grieving process, and, you know, everything that goes on with that was really incredible. And it was the same thing with Ellis too, the boy whose dad died in this room. You know, he was also, him and his mom are grieving for their dad, for his dad, and, you know, the ways that the grief is handled is explained, and, you know, what ways could be better and things like that. And this book was just so amazing. I was not expecting that at all. I was expecting it to be just a simple, you know, it's a scary story, boom, the end. But there's so much more to this book. The spooky stuff is really just in the background. I mean, and I know it's the storyline, but I was so caught up in this, you know, just this story about these two girls and trying to help each other through their friendship, and maybe more than friendship, because they're dealing with that as well. Mira is bi and Layla is definitely queer, but she's not, you know, 100% sure where she falls on that spectrum, and their feelings for each other. So it's just absolutely incredible. And another thing that deals with this, which isn't talked about in the blurb or anything at all, and it's not like a main focus of this book, but it was in it enough that it made me take note, and it gave me a lot to think about, was the cultural aspects of the story too, because both these girls are Arab and they're Muslim, and the way that they handle the grief and the grieving process, and the way that they are connecting and not connecting with their families, and, you know, with, it's just absolutely, the cultural identity aspect of this book was phenomenal, and I was not expecting it at all. So this book definitely has a lot of layers. It's really incredible, very well written. And one last thing I want to say about it that I thought was so cool is that Layla is a photographer, and she is in fact hoping to get into college on a photography scholarship. So it talks throughout the story about, she's got her camera with her, as you can see in this picture, and she's taking pictures of a lot of Mira, but just of the scenery and things like that. Well, there are actually like pictures in this book that are just actual photographs that talk about like what she's taking photos of at that time. Like, here is a picture of the wall that Ellis has come up with labeling on, detailing all the deaths of that room. And it was just such a cool, like, added feature to this book that it really enhanced the reading for me. And I just absolutely loved it. It was a really cool little thing. So, highly recommend this. You can come for the spooky story, stay for the really deep emotional tangents as well. I absolutely loved it. The writing was great, and I think and hope that you will too. The Guide to the Dark. Well, that's what we've got for you guys today. I hope that this book sounds really interesting and that you're intrigued by it. And if so, you can feel free to come and pick that up from Farmington Community Library. And also, please give this video a like. Thank you so much for watching, friends, and have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day.